What up, y'all? The Knight of Green here with my 420 sub special called Abyss Watching. This is a video all about the legendary Abyss Watchers, their signature weapons, the Farron Greatsword and Dagger combo, and the wolf-style martial arts. In summary, I will do three things. One thing I will do is I'll go over the item descriptions and lore to make theories on the development of this particular martial arts. Second, I will recreate the moves as best I can in real life. And lastly, I will offer notes on how one would realistically use these weapons if paired together. This video is the direct sequel of the Artorias Martial Arts recreation, so I would suggest viewing that video first before coming to this one. Link below in the description. Without further ado, let's establish some things that we know about the Abyss Watchers. The Abyss Watchers were a group of undead warriors that hailed from Farron who were inspired by the tales of Artorias the Abyss Walker. They went on a warpath to destroy the spread of the Abyss, and in order to do so, they consumed the blood of the wolf to gain the abilities to combat their foes. Farron's undead legion were known to eliminate entire civilizations at even the slightest sign of the Abyss, and as a result, they were feared far and wide. They were known to be armed almost exclusively with greatswords and daggers, and practiced a unique subsection of the wolf-style martial arts, which derives from the original user, the Wolf Knight Artorias. At some point in the timeline, they decided to restart the Age of Fire and sacrifice themselves to the First Flame to accomplish this. Eventually, the Abyss Watchers are resurrected as Lords of Cinders, and instead of sacrificing themselves again to restart the Age, they go back to their homeland of Farron and start attacking one another to cleanse their ranks of an abyss infestation. Now for some of my own thoughts about their martial arts. I believe that this group of warriors were either influenced by or were trained directly by another member of the four legendary knights of Gwyn. I think that Ciaran, aka the Hornet Knight, and Lord Gwyn's highest ranked assassin, played a major role in the foundation of the group. Evidence to suggest this are the fact that the Hornet Ring, which is one of the signature artifacts of Ciaran, can only be acquired after the Abyss Watchers are felled. Secondly, the Farron Legion fights with a dagger in their offhand, which bears a resemblance to the design and the usage of Ciaran's weapons. On top of this, I believe that the blood of the wolf is actually the soul of Artorias, and that it was passed on to them by Ciaran. In Dark Souls 1, after defeating Artorias, you have the option to give his soul to her, and then she states that she wishes to pay respects to it. It is possible she could have done this by using the soul as an instrument to further the goals of the original owner. Evidence to support this comes from the fact that the soul energy or essence can be stored in blood, as shown with Gale and the blood of the Dark Soul. The fact that the Abyss Watcher soul can be used to make the Wolf Knight Greatsword, which is the same weapon that was generated from Artorias' soul, and the fact that it is stated that the Abyss Watchers have become one with the soul of the Wolf Knight himself. Okay, so I'm not trying to be too lore heavy here, but I think these details are important for explaining how their martial arts developed. So to recap, they likely learned the dagger aspects of the martial arts from Ciaran, and then they learn the greatsword techniques from inheriting the properties of Artorias' soul, and they combine these two skills to make their own mixed martial arts. Again, as mentioned earlier, this is considered to be a subsection or at least an evolution of the original wolf style, so it bears a lot of similarities in tenets to it. It is a martial arts designed to move quickly into wound opponents and then to jump back out of harm's way when the prey retaliates. However, a slight departure from the original style was the fact that the Abyss Watchers incorporated a bit more flashier movements to distract opponents, and they use kicked up dust to conceal their strikes. Artorias himself was pretty direct with his martial arts, while the Abyss Watchers were more indirect and had an almost covert approach to fighting. I see these as being possible influences from the assassin Ciaran, who was known to use similar techniques when fighting. One thing I noticed about this martial arts is that it incorporates one- and two-handed techniques of the sword, suggesting that in the hands of the Abyss Watcher, the sword was more of a 1.5 sword as opposed to an ultra great sword when the player character uses it. Also, another thing is that the Abyss Watchers fight very low to the ground, and it is implied that these techniques were designed to attack lower regions of mutated Abyss monsters to bring them down. The armor sets that they use were specifically designed with superstitious practices to help stave off the Abyss corruption, since I can imagine they would be exposed to a lot of Abyss goo when they were cutting down their enemies. This reminds me a lot of the armor making techniques that the old hunters use in Bloodborne, who did this to stave off the spread of beasthood. Speaking of references and tidbits to other From Software titles, if we go back to Demon Souls weapons classifications, the Abyss Watchers are dual-wielding examples of both the smallest and the largest members of the straight sword family. Anyway, now that we have all this, here is the moveset recreations. Hope you enjoy. Now for the modifications. Granted, I'll admit that these are much less cool and are more for practicality's sake. First, I want to address the sword in the primary hand. I would shrink the sword down a bit so it can flow easier between one-handed and two-handed techniques. However, if you do want to keep the blade length, using long thrusting swords is also an option. Next thing is looking at the stances. I primarily would adopt sword and shield stances with the dagger acting as a substitute for the shield. I have done some previous videos on the Valor Heart weapon and dual wielding, so you can check those out if you want to learn more about this. Unlike the Abyss Watchers who do lengthy combos with all sorts of unrealistic acrobatics and parkour, I would keep the movements very basic. Essentially, the dagger is just used for parrying and the sword is used for attacking. Nothing really more complex than that. However, the dagger is not solely a defensive option, as it is able to attack in different circumstances as well. A little note on reverse gripping daggers. While you can use it to slash as demonstrated here, it is more useful for thrusting into gaps of armor. You can also use the dagger for setting up feints to bait out responses from the opponent. You can also do stances that can conceal the intentions of your offhand, so you can either use it to prepare an attack, or you can throw things like sand or dirt in the opponent's eyes, like the Abyss Watchers do. However, even after all these changes, the core idea of the martial art that still values moving in and out quickly is still maintained while using the same weapon combo. Anyway, this is the end of the video. Remember to check out my playlist, as I've done some other topics that may interest you, and I do also other things, so remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and so you can see more of what stuff I have to release. I'm getting a new practice weapon so I can do more additional weapon recreations, so yeah. Take care, and see you next time with more content. Bye.